Behind every headline lies a story, and we are here to tell it. Welcome to Kaleidoscope with Savithri Rodrigo, where stories matter. From the Kaleidoscope studios, Yolani Fernando, Thai Boulevard, and News. Take a walk to the Thai side, to a spot that is not just a restaurant, but a place where flavors meet friendship and every meal feels like a journey to Thailand itself. The much-loved Thai Boulevard turns 10, and with it a new chapter unfolds, refreshed, reimagined, yet rooted in the same soul of the flavor of Thailand. The familiar aromas still drift from the kitchen, crafted by the chefs who've been here since day one. But the space around them gleams with new energy. Art on the walls, color in the light, and joy in every corner. Hop on over to the familiar yet new surrounds of Thai Boulevard. Find Kaleidoscope on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Follow, like, and subscribe for the latest stories and updates. A big thank you to Sellico Live, CDB, and The Daily Morning, our amazing partners who make it all possible.
She wins with CDB Wings, exclusive financial solutions for women.
Swift, smart, and straight from the headlines. Here's your week in the news with CDB News in a Blink. Sri Lanka's worker remittances is up by 20% in the first 9 months of 2025. The price index for new condominiums in Colombo increases by 0.7% for Q1 of 2025, and the sales volume index surges by 103.3% quarter on quarter. In our market sketch this week, the Colombo stock market continued to break records, with the index at nearly 23,000 points for the first time in history. Oil prices dropped below $59 per barrel on expectations of a supply surplus in 2026 and US-China trade tensions curtailing demand. Gold rose to all-time highs at just below $4,200 per ounce on expectations of further US interest rate cuts, with the renewed US-China trade worries boosting safe haven demand. In a study covering 22 major scientific fields conducted by a professor at Stanford, 63 Sri Lankan scientists are among the world's top 2%, with 7 from Sri Jayawardenepura University. Baby Cheramy launches Sri Lanka's first parenting assistance service powered by generative AI. The Maldives becomes the first country to achieve triple elimination of mother-to-child transmission of HIV, syphilis, and hepatitis B. A US company creates a new Superwood that is 10 times the strength-to-weight ratio of steel and 6 times lighter. Indian sari house Pothys creates a statement. The iconic Burberry checks are now on an Indian Kanchivaram silk sari.
You focus on your goals. We will take care of the risks. Sellico Life.
Sri Lanka's 2026 appropriation bill pegs spending at a staggering 4,434 billion rupees. But with soaring debt and IMF targets looming, is the government really going to deliver? Big money is going to finance, defense, health, and local government. But will this budget mark real change or more of the same? Breaking it down prior to Budget 2026 is Executive Director of Arutha, Yolani Fernando. Government expenditure is projected at 4,434 billion for 2026. Now, how does this reflect the government's broader economic priorities?
There isn't really sort of much that can be said from the overall number, except that, the budget in March was, not a very surprising budget, and we don't expect a lot of surprises even in the budget to come.
So defense gets something like 455 billion rupees, health and mass media 554 billion. Is there a shift in priorities? Can you see that?
That is a bit difficult to say because it's sort of health and mass media together. So there are two ministries there technically. So it's slightly difficult to quite gauge that. And this is reflective of the 2025 appropriation bill as well. Sort of the numbers, kind of look similar. So we can't quite say, but defense is still taking quite a big chunk of our budget, and that does leave less fiscal space for everything else. And also the health ministry budget is not reflective of all health expenditure, because there are a lot of health related expenditure that gets allocated to provincial councils.
So why is our defense budget so extensive?
It is really to do with the personnel costs, so wages and pensions and allowances take up a lot of things. And actually within the defense budget you do see what I think a lot of people consider misallocation of funds, because even the Triforces generally agree that they need more expenditure allocated to equipment and systems that need updating.
So the allocation for provincial councils, local government, 618 billion, that's among the highest. What might this mean for decentralization and also service delivery?
The provincial council's budget is generally one of the highest. So it's not necessarily again a shift in government sort of policy or priority. So it remains to be seen what exactly is being funded through this, rather than sort of the number itself is not surprising. Provincial councils provide a lot of services, health, education and so forth, so it does require a rather large budget in that sense. The government was doing this thing where they wanted local authorities to start generating more revenue and covering some parts of salaries of local government officials, which were earlier completely funded by the national budget. So it would be interesting to see that shift in the new budget as well.
So education is a relatively low 301 billion. Now again, what does this point to? Even health, when you take mass media and health together, it even if you divide it in two, it's minimal. How does this point out to actually addressing urgent social issues, social needs, especially given that we are in post-crisis recovery?
Our health and education budgets have been sort of declining over time, not really nominally there is an increase even this time, but there are a couple of things here. Like I said, there's limited fiscal space because of sort of larger obligations like the defense budget. So it's crowded out already. So then it is really a case of, and like you said, post-crisis, we are post-default, we don't have access to international financial markets, so we have to make do with what we have. Then it becomes a case of prioritizing the money that you do have. So we have a problem, even with health and education, we tend to, prioritize hard infrastructure, so physical infrastructure, even within those allocations. And, there does need to be a shift in prioritization to what would be sort of soft infrastructure, so human capital and so forth.
Where do you see revenue coming from?
The government has actually announced that they will not be introducing any new taxes, and we hope that means that they will be focusing on tackling tax evasion, which is quite rampant in this country. That is both in terms of sort of income tax and even with things like VAT. So broadening the tax base, and that is a far more difficult thing. It is very easy to increase tax rates to meet revenue targets, and it was a necessary adjustment in the post-crisis period, but now we have to really get into the hard work of fixing our tax administration. And the results of that would hopefully be more taxpayers in the net, and and in the medium term that would mean you can actually bring down rates, because right now we are compensating for decades long sort of lack of reform, and having to deal with a smaller pool of taxpayers than you would ideally have.
Stay curious, stay inspired with stories that matter. We'll see you next week on Kaleidoscope.